So I'm here in Torrey, Utah, Torrey. Oh, look at this. It is Sunday. I think it's like the 20th of July, 2008. I flew into Salt Lake City Friday afternoon, and Marc, Gafni, and a friend picked me up and drove me 3.5 hours out here to Torrey. And it's only my second time to Utah. My first time to Utah was 2 weeks ago to interview Marc. So I feel so clean and free getting away from the city. Look at this behind me. What a view. So we got in about 8:15, just before Shabbat. Made a mad dash to the general store, pick up some food, and Marc was speaking in Hebrew, and the woman behind the counter recognized us. Said she grew up in New York. She knew lots of Jewish people there, and we put down $70 at credit card at a local restaurant. Would you believe there's a kosher restaurant here in Torrey? And the waiter came to serve us Friday night. He says, how special is pork chops? But they were kosher pork chops. I've been sick for about 10 days, so not enjoying the trip quite as much as I would if I were healthy. Kids flying a kite. Now these mountains look like they've been strip mined or something. No, it's all natural. Yes, the Navajo Indians used to hang out here. The Mormons came by around 1869. And Shabbos morning, Marc wrapped himself in his talit and was davening on the porch. I did a little davening, said the Shema, said the Shemona Esrei, aka the Amidah, and Aleinu. Sat around and read much of the day. Getting out of this horrible cold. It's still very much lingering with me. I feel like it'll be with me for another week. Went to lunch at the restaurant, had salad, walked for about a mile, then I got exhausted. It's an off-the-record weekend, so can't really go into any details of the things I talk about with Marc and his friend. It's pleasant, it's easy. Occasionally we'll get into a vehement disagreement, but that's pretty rare. I keep finding out how similar we are. So Marc asked me for my story. So I told him it went like this. February 1988. I woke up with, this is a more interesting view for you. February 1988, I woke up with, felt like a return of mononucleosis. And never recovered. I want to take some still photos of myself too. So I was basically bedridden for 6 years. during which time I listened to hundreds of Dennis Prager tapes and read all his books and writings. Now, what can we do here? Let's see what kind of picture I can take. Then I gradually regained my strength and finally met Dennis Prager in person in Florida in January '94. Mentioned if I was in LA, he might have a job for me. So I came out to LA. And job didn't come through. So I was pursuing acting while trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and realized I wanted to write a book. I wanted to develop some of Dennis Prager's teachings on how to be a good person into a book, kind of flesh them out. He didn't have time to do it, so I asked him, and he said no. He asked me to hold off. So I was going to the bookstore and looking up various subjects and seeing if there are any books written about them that were good. And I settled on the topic of history of sex and film, which I was able to find a publisher for. Some of my other book ideas and been able to find a publisher. And so I did that, and it seemed totally congruent with the things Dennis Prager taught, because he had very liberal views on pornography. He never called for it to be criminalized, or he had a favorite professor on the dynamics of sexual excitement, Robert J. Stoller. Prager commended him many times for his work on sexual excitement. So I read Dr. Robert Stoller on sexual excitement and found out that he based much of his work on the pornography industry. He wrote 2 books on the pornography industry, and so I thought I would too. Felt like it was totally congruent with things that Prager had taught, that you should take, Torah values and investigate the world around you, the wider world. And that's what I did. And when I finally got a computer of my own, could go online, set up a website, soon thereafter I wanted to write about Dennis Prager. It's like I'd been writing about him in my ongoing memoir, Story of My Life, how much he had affected my life and my thinking, including on topics such as pornography, sexual excitement, men and women. And as soon as I started writing on Dennis Prager, December '97, January '98, he cut off his friendship with me. Not to say we're ever great friends, we didn't go to lunch, but we're always friendly. And I lost all the friends I had in common with Dennis. I took Dennis aside. And that's very hard for me. I lost most of my friends in Los Angeles. That drove me into therapy for a couple of years, and had thousands of pages of notes left over from my book, which finally got published by Prometheus Books in June 1999. So I put up a website, July 1997, on the history of sex and film. As I did that, I kept running into all these stories about HIV infection in the porn industry, and to track down the most likely culprit, Marc Wallace, and broke that story, along with the stories of every new person who was catching HIV. And realized that the biggest audience that I could get was to write a daily update on the sex industry, which I did. Up till then, my work had been pretty serious. As I was doing a daily update, it became more frivolous, a lot more gossipy. I'd sometimes talk about personal lives of the performers and the people in the industry. And I was also struck by the large number of Jews in the porn industry. And I was struck by how this was a big deal to anti-Semites. So I started investigating the work of various anti-Semites from Adolf